It gives me the greatest delight to welcome all of you to this year's celebration of Bishop Baraga Days. These Bishop Baraga Days are truly of great importance because of the significant progress that has been made since our last gathering in the cause for Bishop Baraga's beatification. We'll share a lot more about that later at our meal together in our annual meeting. So I extend a very special welcome to all of the pilgrims who have traveled here for Bishop Baraga Days, both from afar and from closer to home, here in the Diocese of Marquette and beyond. I want to extend a very special welcome to the clergy who join us here, especially our bishops who join with us today. I'm very, very grateful for the presence of Bishop Glavan, who represents the Slovenian Bishops' Conference at this year's Baraga Days, and who led us in a very beautiful celebration of Holy Mass last evening and gave us a very powerful and beautiful message about Bishop Baraga and the Year of Faith. Bishop Glavan also is the Bishop Novomesto, which encompasses the very birthplace of the one that we remember and honor in these days, Bishop Baraga. I'm pleased, of course, to have the presence of the 10th successor to Bishop Baraga, my own predecessor, Bishop James Garland, and also Bishop Bernard Hebda, the Bishop of the Diocese of Gaylord, who hosted us last year for Baraga Days, and who's also bishop of a place very important in the life and ministry of Bishop Baraga, his first mission there near Arbacroche. To all of the other priests and deacons who join us today, a very warm and special welcome. We celebrate this year's Baraga Days on the threshold of the new evangelization. This new evangelization is that which will occupy the church from this time forward. And as Bishop Glavan pointed out beautifully last evening in his homily, the timing is perfect for us to celebrate these Baraga Days, and the timing is perfect for this significant step in Bishop Baraga's cause. We stand on the threshold of the Year of Faith, proclaimed by our Holy Father, Pope Benedict XVI, which is meant to be a time during which we will strengthen ourselves more in our faith so that we are prepared for the work of the new evangelization which lies ahead. Here in the Diocese of Marquette, in the diocese that was established under the pastoral care of Venerable Frederic Baraga, we are preparing to launch our own local efforts for the new evangelization and for this upcoming Year of Faith. I have entrusted our efforts in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan for the new evangelization to first Our Lady of Guadalupe, whom our Holy Father of beloved memory, Blessed John Paul II, declared to be the mother of all of the Americas and the star of the new evangelization in this hemisphere. But also, I am entrusting the work of the new evangelization in the Diocese of Marquette to the prayers, to the intercession of its first bishop, Venerable Frederic Baraga. As you all know, since our last meeting, just this last May, our Holy Father, Pope Benedict XVI, in the name of the Universal Church throughout the world, recognized the heroic virtue of Venerable Frederic Baraga, and therefore declared upon him the title Venerable, that he is truly worthy of the veneration of the faithful worthy of their imitation and worthy to be intercessor for all of their needs. This is a tremendous moment. Many of us have said that, in a sense, no one needed to tell us of Bishop Baraga's heroic virtue. We have known the heroic virtue of this saintly missionary priest and bishop ever since the time of his death. But to have this recognized by the Holy Father and therefore by the whole Church is a moment that gives us great joy and pride in our beloved Venerable Frederic Baraga. Blessed John Paul II, in calling the Church at the beginning of the new millennium in the year 2000 to the work of the new evangelization, set before the Church 7 pastoral priorities that he identified as being important for this work of the new evangelization. And as I have reflected on those 7 pastoral priorities, it struck me just how much Bishop Venerable Frederic Baraga stands for us as a shining example in these efforts. Bishop Baraga, who was so responsible for the first evangelization of this land, first among the native people, and then among the settlers who came here, he should be our model, he should be our example, he should be our intercessor as we take up that work of evangelization anew in our own time. And what are these 7 priorities? First is the universal call to holiness. That we need to focus once again on that individual call to holiness that is the call for each one of us. And need I say more in terms of Venerable Frederic Baraga's example for us of holiness. In fact, from his earliest days as a student at the University of Vienna, when then young Frederic Baraga came under the spiritual guide and influence of St. Clement Hofbauer, the Redemptorist priest, he became part of a student group there at the University of Vienna that was dedicated to 2 principal missions. Number 1, to dedicate themselves to personal holiness and prayer. And secondly, to minister to those most in need, to the poorest and the most abandoned of God's children. How we saw that commitment as a young man blossom in the life and the ministry of Venerable Frederic Baraga, as he came to this land seeking his own personal holiness, but seeking to minister to those who are most abandoned, to the poorest, to the most marginalized among us, to our Native American brothers and sisters. He exemplified the call to holiness, which must be the call for each one of us according to our own state in life. He must inspire us to seek holiness and to serve the needs of the poor. Second priority was prayer. The second priority identified by Blessed John Paul II is to renew our lives of prayer, to learn how to pray again, more deeply, more personally, more intensely. And certainly, Venerable Frederic Baraga is a perfect example for us of the life of prayer. He recounts, Venerable Frederic does, how once he realized that his missionary efforts here in the upper Great Lakes regions would be times of isolation and loneliness, and that he was even misunderstood by his own bishop. He decided then and there that his answer to that isolation, that loneliness, And that misunderstanding was to intensify his life of prayer, to draw closer to Christ, to strengthen him. And he began rising earlier in the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning, to spend up to 3 hours in prayer before he even began his missionary efforts for the day. Venerable Frederic Baraga stands as a model for us of how to turn to the Lord and be strengthened in prayer as we face the challenges of life and of the gospel. The third pastoral priority identified by Blessed John Paul II is the celebration of the Eucharist, to deepen our appreciation for the celebration of what we do here. And certainly the Eucharist and the celebration of the Holy Mass was central to the life of Venerable Frederic Baraga. Why do you think he trampled and traveled all over on snowshoe, in canoes, on boats, on horseback, on foot, to bring the sacrament to the people of God across the Upper Peninsula? The celebration of Holy Mass was so important to Venerable Frederic Baraga. We read the beautiful stories about how even in the cold, he would warm the water in the cruet before Mass. It was so cold. But even by the time he got to the offertory, he had to break the ice on the water. So cold was it, but so dedicated was he to celebrating the Eucharist, even under the most extreme conditions. And we need to follow his example and renew our own dedication to the Eucharist and to the celebration of the Holy Mass in the new evangelization. The fourth pastoral priority was reconciliation, the renewal of the sacrament of penance, and how important that was to Bishop Baraga, as he sought to make sure that those who had been baptized also had the opportunity to celebrate the sacrament of penance as often as he could provide it for them, again motivating him to travel these large distances under horrible conditions. And he himself was a good penitent, and he sought out the help of his fellow missionary, Father Samuel Mazzucchelli, Venerable Mazzucchelli. And he would try to arrange to meet his fellow missionary priest so he could receive spiritual direction and celebrate the sacrament. And as did Father Mazzucchelli. He knew the importance of repentance and the great gift that God had given in the sacrament. The fifth pastoral priority is the primacy of grace. That it's not our effort in the new evangelization that is going to bring out fruit, but it is by the grace of God working in and through us. But God's help is necessary. Without Christ, we can do nothing. And Bishop Baraga captured this, I think, in his own episcopal motto, Unum est necessarium. One thing is necessary, the love of God. And if love of God is first in our life, and if our dedication to love and to serve God above all things, he will work in and through us in the work of the new evangelization. And so it might be well for us in the new evangelization to take up the motto of Bishop Baraga. One thing is necessary. The sixth pastoral priority identified by Blessed John Paul II is listening to the Word of God, reflecting on the Scriptures and on the living tradition of the Church, especially as contained in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. And we know how important it was for Bishop Baraga to reflect and to read the Word of God. And he knew how important it was for the children that he was called to serve, to also receive the Word of God, even to receive it in their own native language, motivating him to learn the Ottawa and Chippewa language, to write their dictionary and their grammar, to write prayers and the catechism and his homilies and hymns and pastoral messages to the native people so that they could hear and listen to and reflect on the Word of God in their own native tongue. Bishop Baraga knew how important it was for them to hear and listen to the Word of God. And this must motivate us in the new evangelization to reflect more deeply on God's Word. And finally, the seventh pastoral priority is to proclaim the word. For the church in the new evangelization, to proclaim the word that we have heard, strengthened in our own faith and by the grace of the sacraments, that we would proclaim God's word to others. And this is exactly what Venerable Frederic Baraga did. He came, he left the comfort of his own homeland to come here and to travel these lands in great hardship to spread the good news. We must be inspired by him to do the same, to share the word of God. And so we give thanks to God today for the life, for the ministry, for the example of Venerable Frederic Baraga. We give thanks to our Holy Father and to Almighty God that his heroic virtue has been truly recognized by the Church and that we can truly call him venerable. But we must then be inspired by his example to take up in our own day the mission to proclaim and live the gospel in the new evangelization in the same spirit as Venerable Frederic Baraga, with the same zeal, with the same fervor, and willing to make the same sacrifices that he made in the spirit of the early church, in the spirit of the apostles, following the day of Pentecost. That is what is needed in our day. The same zeal and fervor of Venerable Frederic Baraga. Venerable Frederic Baraga, pray for us.